I'm going to tell you, when I did this demonstration in Venezuela, the producer, after this demonstration, couldn't hold up. He just could not hold himself. And he said real loud in Spanish, "Oh, crap. That's my whole farm. What do I do?" You know what I told him? Nothing. It's too late this year. But it made that much of impact. Good. I'm going to tell you, I don't care how much college, I don't care how much education, I don't care about your background, I don't care where you work, it does not matter. The soil is going to speak to us, and it's going to connect to every one of us. It is way more articulate than I could ever be. Okay. When I walk on your field, where's your shovel? Do we have a shovel?
Yeah, my
Right.
shovel.
Yeah, bring the shovel. Thank you. And we need the pan. Where's that extra empty pan?
Right here.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
I want that shovel back.
Yes, ma'am. She's going to check it. Yeah, I can take it. I'm sure I can get this to TSA. Hey, what are you doing with the shovel? Okay. Producers, I just made a comment to you that I told you your farm came from the prairie and the forest, and it works the same. This is what I'm telling you. The planet does 4 things every day. Without any of this one process, we do not have Earth. We have Mars and Moon. All these are connected. So when I walk your field for the first time, when I do a consultation, guess what I bring out? A shovel to see if those 4 things are working. There's a saying, the eyes are the window to the soul. The other saying by Ray, the window to the soul of your soil is the shovel. I just got back from Brazil, and I asked, there was a group of, they farmed 300,000 or 400,000 acres, have 80 agronomists and staff. And I asked him, where is your shovel? In Portuguese, it means pá. They looked at me like, what is wrong with you? These are agronomists, college-educated agronomists. Where is your shovel? They had to go find one, and they brought me back one that was this big from a farm of 400,000 acres. And not one agronomist had a shovel. Why do I want the shovel? Very simple. 4 things that I want to do. And this machine is going to show it today. Number 1, your job is to capture light energy and convert it to chemical energy. I call it liquid sun by Dr. Christine Jones. Number 1 job, I can tell very quickly, and the soil will show it, how much sun you are capturing. Number 2, and what runs the planet is biodiversity. The more biodiverse your farm is, and I mean insects, animals, plants, biodiversity. The planet runs on biodiversity, ladies and gentlemen. Every one of you have this. This phone is absolutely worthless without software. The software of the planet is biodiversity. It runs the planet. Period. The most biodiverse farms are the ones that do not buy inputs. Biodiversity also runs the water cycle. Do you think we would have a small water cycle and a big water cycle without plants and soil? No. And the last one, nutrient cycling. If we do not get the water into the soil, we have a dysfunctional water cycle, and I saw it driving here. The water is sitting on the top. If the water does not get into the microbes, because microbes swim in water, they're subaquatic. Earthworms are subaquatic creatures. They need water. And I can tell with a shovel, and you're going to learn today, if all those 4 processes are working. This demonstration is going to show if those 4 processes are working. 4 of them. All of them are connected. I want your farm to run on new sunlight, not ancient sunlight. Ancient sunlight is diesel, fertilizer. All those are made by ancient sunlight. Diesel, oil, anything that oil touches is ancient sunlight. Am I opposed to it? No. But we are going broke because the more fungicides, insecticides, every takes energy to create a system like this. I want the farmers to run on new sunlight. I had a producer yesterday tell me, he said, Ray, I got 10,000 acres. How am I going to fulfill the logistics? You're too big. I'd rather have 7,000 or 5,000 acres that I'm doing a good job. I will make more money than 10,000 acres. So, because I know how the natural system works, I have been taught. We're going to see how it reflects on your soil. Okay? 4 of them. Capture sun, biodiversity, water cycle, nutrient cycle. And guess where all those processes meet? The soil. That's why the soil is the foundation resource. Okay? Are we ready? Now, can everybody see this pan? It's got holes. So we're going to measure runoff, infiltration. I want the water in the soil. And then it goes to the river. Then it goes to the lake. Please understand that the largest reservoirs of water is the ocean, atmosphere, soil. They are the largest reservoir. The reason we're having climatic issues and we're getting too much rain is because we have too much water vapor in the atmosphere. In 1978, when the Carter administration said, hey, go check on this CO2, but the scientists never talked about this. Water vapor is 900 times more than CO2. Where should the water be and the CO2? In the soil. We're going to show you, this is why when the soil surface gets too hot, pushes rain clouds. Anybody that lives next to the city, that's called sensible latent heat, pushing rain clouds away. CO2 is a symptom of the problem. Let's get ready for the rain simulator to speak to us in the soils. Now, let me explain the pans here. This pan, now keep in mind, those pans have holes. We're going to measure runoff, and we're going to measure infiltration. Okay? This came from that strip right here. Doug, how long has that strip been there?
5 years.
5 years. Do you know what's the first thing I do when I walk with a shovel and I'm talking to a producer? I go to his strip, his wooded area, and I go to his field. And I compare. I actually did that at a gravesite. There was a grave and a field right there. Pulled the shovel out from the gravesite, hasn't been disturbed for years, took his field, and I said, the dead are doing a better job than you. Your fence row is doing a better job than you. Do you know how I judge my paddocks for my grazing? My fence row. Why does my fence row have more diversity than my paddocks? How many of you have farmed and took down a fence row and you've noticed the yield was always higher? Raise your hand. Also after CRP. Today you'll find out why. Okay? Now, are we going to get ready? So let me explain. We took that from here. This is how many year no-till, Mark?
7.
7 years no-till and covers, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's been pretty good about covers. Okay? This next one is
Strip till with covers.
strip till with covers.
5 years, I think,
5 years?
give or take.
5 years, give and take. This other one is also strip till. Strip till, no covers. And the last one, what the majority of Minnesota is doing and the planet is conventional agriculture. To Brazil, well, actually Brazil actually has more no-till and covers than, in fact, we learned cover crop mixes from Brazil, from Dr. Ademir Caligari. Taught Gabe, taught Jay Fuhrer, and taught myself how to design those mixes. Okay? So please understand, this represents a large, this one pan still represents agriculture in a large area. So please understand, how much no-till do we have in the country? Anybody have that number? Because it's all over the board. Anybody? 20, 30%? I don't think it's that high either. I think I agree with you. I don't think it. They called no-till where you till the corn and no-till the beans. That's rotational tillage. Okay, let's see what's going to happen when we turn this on. Make it rain. How many of you get the rain at the right time and at the right rate? Please raise your hand. Because if you do, I'm going to talk to you because you've got something going on with God. You know what happened in April and May? We had 20 inches in 2 or 3 weeks. It was devastating in my pasture. Because our slopes are, we still had a lot of runoff. Have you guys had a lot of rain recently? And that rain comes at 20 miles an hour. And when I've designed pivots, I want the water to infiltrate. There was a situation when I told a farmer, when I couldn't defend myself, I designed a pivot for him. And he was a potato grower. He tilled extensively. All the water ran off from the pivot. And he blamed me that I couldn't defend myself, Joe. Now I can defend myself. I know why it ran off. So notice how we're beginning to see the front and the back. And let's see how, what do you guys notice on the back of this splashboard? Can anybody see it? When you have that rain, you got that detachment. Why is it detaching? There is no protection, no superbiotic glues created by fungi and bacteria. And when that splash gets on your plants, then it's a vector for disease. If you grow tomatoes with bare ground, soybean could be a vector for disease. Does anybody know what the national infiltration rate in the United States is? 1.5 inches. Do you know we've done some studies on infiltration in forest, 50 inches per hour. 50. Gabe Brown's had over 30 inches per hour with no-till and covers. Should we be able to handle 2 or 3 inches? Yes. But we can't. The current way of our soils are so degraded. So guess what? I had to go do a presentation for the Corps of Engineers for the Mississippi Valley. We got it. Go ahead and shut it off. So I went to go speak to the Corps of Engineers, did the demonstration, and you know what the engineer's solution to the flooding in the Mississippi Valley? Build more dikes and make them taller. Why don't we cover the ground, create aggregates, and address the raindrop the moment it lands? What a novel concept. And we can take care of the flooding and the climate. Let's show you. Ready? Let's take this out, guys. How much infiltration the conventional? Look how much ran off. You know when farmers tell me about cover crops, you know what the first thing they say, Ray? Cover crops steal water. Is it possible your soil is destroyed and doesn't infiltrate anything? We've done this for the last 100 years, guys. A couple hundred years. All of our soil is degraded. I have not been on one farm. Even Gabe Brown will tell you, I'm still not as happy as I should. We need to understand that we're in a degraded state. Now let's look at the strip till
No covers.
with no covers. How did that do? A lot better. See, it takes a lot of energy to make dirt. We really should call tillage side. Side to kill the structure, to kill the fungi, to alter the soil biota. This costs us money. Then it's taking these precious nutrients. This one's going in. Some is not running off. We want to reduce the runoff because when we have runoff, we're taking pesticides, fertilizers, and chemicals. And isn't it interesting? There's a study showing that the people that lived in Louisiana and that southern area of the Mississippi, where it goes from all the way down, have a higher rate of cancer. I don't know about you, but I want the water in the ground. It costs me money. Let's watch the next one. Mark, how did the other with strip till and covers do? Even less runoff.
Here's the infiltration.
Look at the infiltration. Doug, you guys are going down the right direction, man. Look how beautiful. Should be very proud. Even to the neighbors that call you an idiot. Who's the real idiot, right, Doug? As long as my wife doesn't call me an idiot, I'm good. There's some days she probably thinks it, though.
Here you go. I'll take it.
Okay, now how do the no-till and covers do? Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah.
How clean that water is.
Look how clean the water is. Look how little runoff. Look how much you retained. Where's that location? It's secret. We can't tell you. We never expose names.
No till with cereal.
Yeah, Sierra Rye. Here's Minnesota. It's Minnesota. Okay? Not from far away, but we're not going to tell you where. We like to keep things secret. No, I was kidding.
If they don't want to know, if they don't want us to say their name,
We don't say their names, but covers. And they're pretty religious about it, aren't they? Okay? Thank you.
it's also a 3-crop rotation.
Let's look at the notice 3-crop rotation. Wheat's in the rotation?
Sunflowers.
Sunflowers. How did the buffer do? Any runoff? How much infiltration? Where's the rest of the water?
In the soil.
In the soil.
Or on the top, on the bed.
Or let me tell you something. For every 1% you build organic matter, I hold 20 to 22,000 more gallons. Per acre. Every 1%, 20 to 22,000 gallons. That's why you can get through the drought. If I build my soil 3 to 4%, do the math. Now you're talking close to 100,000 gallons that you hold more per acre than your neighbors do. Okay, so now we're going to flip it. Let's flip the conventional,
And then the strip till with cover crop.
the strip till and the cover crop. Yeah, let's go ahead and lift it up.
Actually, flipping it right on that wheel well.
Okay,
Is that okay?
you can do it anywhere you want. Okay,
Grab those extra water
yep,
containers?
I will. You're going to flip it right on top of that?
Yep.
Okay,
Here you go, Ray.
there you go.
One more. Ready?
Yeah, I'm a little greasy on the feet. I'm slipping. 3, 2, 1.
Get closer so you guys can see. I want you guys to circle around. Once you see it, let everybody else come, please. I want you to see how dry this is. And look at here. Will you see this little cottage cheese called aggregates? Look how this breaks up into blocks. Look how dry. We just rained them. Come and see. I want you to see it yourself.
Touch it.
Touch it, feel it,
See how
experience it. Look at the little tiny BBs. This is what we're trying to build. Coffee grounds, chocolate cake, BBs. Cover crops do that. Guess what destroys these little aggregates? Tillage does. Over-fertilization. Soybeans hurt this cottage cheese. Why is soybean hard on the ground? And alfalfa, anybody know? Carbon balance. Carbon to nitrogen ratio is out of balance. Did I say not to grow soybeans? I didn't say that. Soybean and alfalfa is one of the hardest grounds is alfalfa. Why does alfalfa get so hard? Carbon to nitrogen ratio. If there's too much nitrogen in the soil, they will eat the aggregates. They eat the cottage cheese. You guys call it organic matter. I call it the Aggregates. It eats the marbles. This is what brings infiltration. Tillage destroys it. Overgrazing hurts it. Over-fertilization hurts it. Leaving the ground bare hurts it. And corn and soybean is not enough to fill and build aggregates. Not enough energy. Just not enough. Roots, how good is corn roots? How about soybean roots? Not very good. Does anybody here have a really nice beard here that's really long? Man, not really. We had a guy yesterday that looked like one of the Amish guys. And I said, the Amish asked me, Ray, how do I fix my soil? Grab your beard. I want lots of fibrous roots like cereal rye, triticale, barley, all those grasses, leek, liquid sun. When I design a mix, I design it so I get fibrous root systems. They'll go on there and break the clays open. They leak acids. They feed microbes. They coat it with particles. This is why this infiltrates way better than this does. So the more I do cover crops, the more I improve infiltration. And I also build more organic nitrogen. We're going to talk about that later. This is why producers that do cover crops are able to back off fertilizer, pesticides, and chemicals. Well, how can they reduce herbicides? When you go more carbon, you got more organic forms of nitrogen. Guess what happens? It becomes more fungal. And the more fungal it becomes, the less the weeds become an issue. When I walk on an operation and there's lots of weeds, it is indicative of too much tillage because weeds are healers. Please understand, when you till, you break up these carbon molecules and our strategist bacteria, and they eat the carbon. They respire CO2, send it up into the atmosphere. They die and release nitrate, and the weeds come up. If we want to have weeds forever, bury them. I had one producer say, Ray, I'm still not going to stop tillage. I go, well, why? Because, man, when I till, I prime my soil, and I see a response. I said, that's cool. That's very cool. I say it would have been better. It's like saying to me, I'm going to burn the house down to warm up a hot dog. I say it would have been better to put a cover, and then the natural system will start taking care of the weeds. Will we ever eliminate weeds? Please raise your hand, thinking that's going to happen. Never. We are getting our butt killed. I don't want to get rid of them. I want to suppress them. I just want to suppress them so my corn and soybean don't get hurt in my yield. That's all I want. I don't want to get rid of them. What do we all get judged by? Weeds. Tell you a quick story. They flew me in a private jet airplane in Colombia. We went to go see a 30, 40, 50,000 acre farm. Flew me in a private airplane. The last day, the agronomist and the owner said, Ray, don't you look at that beautiful soybean field. It must have been a couple hundred acres. It was huge. What do you think about not one weed? And I go, oh, that's boring. He goes, well, Ray, why are you like that? He says, how much did it cost you to do that? It's okay to have some weeds out there. It took me a long time to get over in my pastures that it's okay to have some of those weeds. Do you know what my cows call that? Forage. Best definition I've ever heard of a weed is this. It must have been a hippie in Costa Rica. I like them hippies. They must inhale a lot of cover crops. This is his definition of a weed. It is a plant. We still do not understand its function. We have weeds that have a higher protein level than alfalfa does. They'll pick up trace minerals and bring them right to the top. They start the healing process, guys. We need them. Oh yeah, I even need pests. Why? Because there's 1,700 beneficial insects that feed every one pest. They control one pest. 1,700 beneficials, according to Jonathan Lundgren, for one pest. So you know what screws up our IPM? Tillage. Because 90%, 70% of all insects continue their life cycle in that first 1 inch. So if we're spraying it, killing it, tilling it, we're messing up the habitat for the beneficial insects. Are you getting a feeling that everything we do in agriculture is hurting ourselves? That's where we're at. Now, let's go to the next one. So let's make this very clear. So when you till, you wake up bacteria, and they start to eat the organic matter, the aggregates. Then you're going to see through this demonstration why, this demonstration will show why the soil gets plugged up. Notice that I have, Tom is going to be the conventional. And the reason I notice how I perfectly chose the ladies. The reason I chose Tom, because I want you to think of tillage as heavy disturbance. So when you see Tom, think of him as highly disturbed. Sorry, Tom, my wife tells me that all the time. When I have 3 daughters, they tell me that all the time, Tom. Okay, now, see ya? You are strip till. Okay. Then, Maddie, you are no till with covers. And you, young lady, are the buffer strip. You could use one of these. You're that strip right there, that beautiful strip, okay? Amazing strip, yes. Now I'm going to get down here. Now, this will explain why the soil gets plugged up, okay? This is called the aggregate or the slake test. What does that mean? When you do not have the biotic glues, the organo-mineral complexes, the cementing agents created by fungi, bacteria, and living plants, water should hold its structure, soil should hold its structure. Please try this on your farm. I ask you to try this. Now, I'm going to give you a warning. This test works about 95% of the time. Does not work 5% of the time. Why? Mineralogy of the soil. Some soils chemistry, they still stick. So please understand, but it works a great part. I did this in Hawaii. I did this in Puerto Rico. I did this in Alaska. I've done it all over the world, and it works beautifully. We knew about this since 1938. The research has been around since the 30s. You're going to take, and when you do this test, try and do it when it's air dry. If you're impatient, stick it in the microwave, okay? So what they're going to do, each of those clods, it's got millions of pores. The water's going to rush in to fill the pore space. and there's going to be forces of energy as the water rushes in. We want to see which soil has its integrity, its structure. It's being held with the carbon glues. We don't want it to fall apart. And if it does fall apart, we want it to be clear. Okay? Everybody with me? Go ahead and drop them in. The participants do not realize whatever tube they get, they have to drink. Tom, life sucks for you today, buddy. Okay? So what is going on here with the conventional? Pass me that one right here. This is why we have standing water today in Minnesota. The soils do not have structure and integrity and do not have aggregation, and the water gets plugged. This soil is addicted to fertilizer and chemicals. Sri Lanka wanted to go organic. Great goal. But they didn't realize that their soils were addicted, and they cut the fertilizer and people went hungry. When I work with a producer, I do not cut him off chemicals right away. It takes 3 to 5 years. Do you know what's the first thing I get him on? What do you think it is? Cover crops. Starts the healing process. This soil is leaky. Loses lots of nitrogen. Does not manage carbon well. Very weedy. Very bacteria dominant. It's addicted to fertilizer and chemicals. Water runs off. Cannot hold water. Does not have the organic matter. That's this soil here. Okay? Now, how did the strip till do? Pretty darn good, didn't it? How about the no-till? They're all clear, are they not? How about the strip? See, let's make this very clear, ladies and gentlemen. Nature does not till. That is one of the principles of soil health. She uses earthworms, beetles, all kinds of creatures. You know what's so cool about them? They don't complain, they show up to work on time, and they don't need diesel. You know, all they want is to protect them, feed them. 1 acre of soil biology wastes good, healthy soil on a no-till cover crop one weighs about 2,500 pounds per acre. A healthy pasture, 10,000 pounds of organisms per acre. The weight of an elephant. So when you go out there in your tractor, Ray says, feed the cow and calf. Cow and calf weighs about 2,500 pounds. How do you feed the elephant? Covers. Okay? Now please, guys, please understand, I am not against chemicals. I'm not. I don't want people walking away. I am not against the tools. I'm against you guys going broke. That's what this is about. I did not one time tell you not to use your herbicides. Not one time did I tell you not to use fertilizer. Did not tell you that. I'm going to show you how we can reduce them so you can make money when corn reaches $3 a bushel. And you're still making money. That's what this is about. Now, I did have one farmer say to me, yeah, Ray, you put a rock in that. I've had a farmer say that. The water didn't infiltrate. Here, let's take that here, and let's break this open. Oop. Did the water enter? It did. These glues, soils want to do 2 things. Infiltrate and hold water. Infiltrate, hold. Infiltrate, hold. So the more organic matter I get, better infiltration. The microbes and cover crops make the clays easier to deal with. It gives the sands charge now. The superbiotic glues can hold nitrogen now. Sands can hold nitrogen fertilizer when you have biotic glues. Okay, so it changes the soil. That's why if I had to study school again, I would have studied biochemistry because biology changes the inorganic chemistry. You ready?
Yep.
You guys can go off the stage now.
Or turn around, you can just jump off the back if you want to.
You go, yeah, go ahead and jump out.
Is that mud up over there?
Okay, now Stephanie is going to show you a really cool demonstration. Stephanie, they're yours.
When you leave here today, just like the slake test, we have the aggregate stability assessment. And one of the things I really like about the aggregate stability assessment is that you can do this anytime on your field, except for probably January or February in Minnesota when it's frozen. But most of the time you can just go out with the shovel and scoop that soil up and take that soil and crumble it, and we're really looking at the top 2 inches of the soil profile because we want to see water stable aggregates on the surface of our field. So what we have here is we have 4 different things that we set up here. And the 4th one I don't have in there yet, so we'll get that one going in just a second. But what we have here on this first plate is what we would refer to as a conventional tillage system. So high disturbance. Again, I guess Joe, wasn't the last guy that was disturbed Joe as well? No, it's Tom. Tom and Joe, highly disturbed. So that's okay. And then the next 2 actually are side-by-side comparisons. And because when we look at water stable aggregates, what Ray was talking about, you know, those particles of sand, silt, and clay in our soil, but it's not just that mineralogy, it's also the life that's in our soil, that bacteria and that fungi, all kind of living in and around those soil particles, and they coat those particles with biological glues and hold them all together. And those biological glues are really essential. But they don't last very long, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but they only have a certain amount of time frame that they're coating that soil, because when they're not coating the soil, they're also food for other microbes. And so these 2 that are here in the middle is actually a sample that came right from the field. Right here, we have an example, because when you look across the field, we have areas that have really good soil cover, but then we also have areas that are bare as well. So we're kind of seeing like what's happening over that whole field in terms of aggregate stability. So part of this, so this one right here kind of came from, if you look down, maybe a bare spot on the field. And you know, if we look at this field, probably about 50% of this soil is maybe bare, maybe a little bit less than that, but 30, something like that. And then the one next to it is under a well-covered area, just to show that power of cover. All right, and then the last one we're actually going to grab from right here, which is the grass strip that we have over there, which I like to consider to be, you know, part of the system, right? We don't want to necessarily see that as a separate area, like, oh, this is no longer part of our field. That area over there is part of that system. It's really important that we continue to think of that as part of our field, because when we do have to go into our field and have some type of disturbing activities or other things like that, that area is our safety zone for our beneficial insects and other things like that that thrive over there and that can come back and reestablish in our soils and other things like that. So that's from that field over there. So when you're going to do this, and I'm just going to kind of show an example, when you're going to do the aggregate stability test, you want to get this chunk from the top 2 inches, and you're going to start breaking it into small pieces, BB size pieces, or smaller. That's what you want to do. You want to kind of break it up, and you want to do it with a little bit of, we're not trying to race through it, so I don't want you to try to crush it at all. So we're not going to crush it, because then we've already destroyed those aggregates, right? So we want to kind of break it along the natural planes of how the soil wants to break into those BB size aggregates. And once we get a certain amount, we're going to put them into the strainers. So I'm going to take this stuff that we had loosened from the strip over there, from the grass area. We're going to put that into this plate right here. I'm going to take out. We don't want to have a lot of roots or residue in there either. We want to just look at those stable aggregates of the soil, and not the input of the organic residues. All right. So you each got about a plate full here. Take a look at this one. We got a couple chunks here that we probably need to break down a little bit better. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your soils and dump some into your strainers. So the strainers are about 3/4 full. Try not to get it into the water yet. So just kind of, I'm going to hand it to you. Just dump that into your strainer till it's about 3/4 full. when we put those strainers in the water, we want that soil to be completely covered by the water. So we're not at some smorgasbord someplace mashing up a pile of mashed potatoes, right, to get as big a pile as we want. That's for lunch in just a little bit. We're also not, I always like to say this also isn't Grandpa's corncob pipe, so we don't want to pack it down really tight or whatever those hippies are inhaling for cover crops, right? We're not going to pack it down. We want it to be nice and loose in there. So we want to look at what those aggregates are doing. All right, so now when you're ready, set them into your cup of water. Pick up your cup of water and set them in there and kind of show everyone, hold them up so everyone can see what they look like. I'm going to step out of the way.
How much do those strainers cost? Like $1 or something like that?
Oh, like maybe $5,000 a piece. No, had to expense them out. No, you get them from Walmart, maybe a couple bucks. You know, you get a pack of 2 or 3. So we usually set them in the water, and you leave them in there for about a minute or so. You have some kind of conversation about something while you're out in the field, or talk about the weather or other things like that. But once we have those aggregates are good and saturated, we're going to take them out and we're going to dump them back onto these plates. All right. Do we see a difference in what's happening to the water? Yeah, we can. Can you see a difference in these? Again, Joe, just kind of cloudy.
So you can do this on your fence row, right?
Absolutely.
Go right to your field and compare your fence row with your field.
Yep. All right, and I'm going to hold these plates for just a minute because I know as soon as I set them down, they're going to fly. So you guys can set the cups down, and you're going to take the strainers out. And when you take the strainers out, you're going to want to kind of drip that water out of it. I always you want to get that free water out of there. Ooh. Whew.
That was close.
Get all that free water out of there. Then you're going to tip it right over onto your plate. And take it off. There we go. Oh, now Joe said his looked like a mud pie. Let's see what he's talking about. Yeah. So we have this, the reason why they call it a slump, I always like to take it and kind of give it a little bit of a shimmy and see what happens. Does it hold its integrity? Does it have any shape? Any of the chunks that were in there to begin with, are they there anymore? Those aggregates melted. So they weren't water stable at all. So in the presence of water, those soils fell apart because where are the glues in this soil? They're gone, right? They've been consumed by biology. They've been released back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, and so that soil doesn't have any of those glues to help hold them together.
So this is why your soils become compacted. And
Yeah.
there's no pore space. And then you start losing nitrogen because it shifts to anaerobic conditions. So you're going to pass those around?
Oh, sure, absolutely. We can pass them around.
I want everybody to see. Show us those.
Yeah, and if you kind of open it up, there's no space in there. There's no pore space. There's no nothing.
Give me a good one.
All right, I'll give you the good one as well.
I want everybody to pass it around.
And so we can see those aggregates and how that relationship with water is still being held.
I want everybody to look.
So the other thing that I like to look at is when I'm in a field is I like to make those comparisons between the bare part of a field and a covered part of a field. Do I see any differences? Are the aggregates holding together the same way in there? Just because the role that cover plays in our soil is so important. And so you want to look at those aggregates and you want to open them up. Take those slumps and open them up. And if you do have aggregates there, roll them out. See how well they hold together. And you just kind of like push it around with your pinky. And if you can roll out aggregates and push on them, then they're usually pretty stable. If they kind of fall apart when you push on them or mash them up, then they're not quite as stable as you would like them to be. So we're seeing a little bit of aggregates in here that are holding together, but we're also seeing some that are kind of falling apart just a little bit in here. So that cover is playing a really important role in this field, but we do have part of this field that's not covered. So hopefully this field will be getting covered really soon. Right, Dan? This is once this field day is done, from what I understand, you're getting cover in here to protect anything that's bare, which is the way that we need to do this. And that's a normal part of farming, right? Sometimes we have a period of time where our soils are bare, right? Right after, sometimes more of our soil than we want it to be is bare. And so we want to think about how we incorporate cover back in there and how do we continue to get that soil biology to build those glues, that fungi, that bacteria, but especially that fungi to coat those aggregates. And this is something that's happening all the time. It's not a one and done thing. Those aggregates are constantly being coated, degraded and coated. And so we want to continually have that cover or try to maximize that cover so that we can help build that, keep those aggregates stable. All right. Again, so this is a challenge. You want to buy these strainers and use this as a report card every time you go out into the field. Well, how are the aggregates looking? And then ask yourself, okay, why are they performing the way they are? What are we missing? Do we have the cover we want? Do we have the living roots that we need? What else can we change? Have we just had a period of really high disturbance? You know, so if we know that there's something that's going to be happening that's going to impact those aggregates, then it's really important that we try to counteract that or add other things into the system to help rebuild those aggregates. Let's see here. I'm gonna set this out on the table, the registration table, but it's a little handout that I made. It says, "Are you up for the Slump Challenge?" So this kind of gives you some directions of what to do and kind of what to look for. So if this is something that you want to try when you get home, at least there's a little bit of information here that kind of helps you on what to do and what to look for. So I'll set that out on the registration table when you're finished.
We show you the problem. How do you fix it? I think this is a really good demonstration. Wolfgang, is that your name? Yep. That is awesome. Come here. Wolfgang, can you come and help me? That is an awesome name. I would love it. Wolfgang Archuleta. Yeah, it goes well, man. You stand here, bud. I hear. Okay. We just showed you how do you fix your fields? How do you get the structure back? How do we get our soils cycling? How do we get them to infiltrate? Let's be brutally honest. What do you guys want? You want good yields. You want to be sustainable. You want to reduce your inputs. How do we do that? Get ready to push this, okay? I'd rather farm 5,000 acres well than have 10,000 acres. If I can get my covers and I'm religious about them, I can change my whole farming operation and start reducing the inputs. My job, number one, is to capture sun and convert it into chemical energy and convert it to liquid sun. I'm going to show you this little demonstration as why the covers. When I mention covers to you guys, let's be brutally honest. Philip, when I say cover crops to you, I hate the name cover crop right away. I'm going to just tell you, I hate that name. Do you know why I hate it in the United States, Nick and Philip? When I say cover crops to farmers, what's your first thought process, guys? Come on, guys. What's your first thought when I say cover crops? Expense. What? Expense. Expense. They're a pain in the butt. More management. They suck my water. You think they make your ground wet, cold, etc. I hate the word cover crop. Hate it. Because that's the first perception farmers in the United States think. But how many of us ever think of cover crops of this? I changed the name to called service crops. They service your corn and soybean. They service your microbes. They service the bank. They service the fact that you can get away from the government and the bank. They service the climate. They service your health. Because if you get the soil healthy, healthy soil, healthy plant, healthy animal, healthy climate, healthy human. Oh no, but they cost me $20 or $30 to save you $150 or $200 an acre. If I was told, Ray, you only got one practice, you know what I would choose, Wolf, again? Covers. Even over no-till. Covers would be my number one. You know why? The ancient people said the plant is the mouth of the soil. So what happens when you get soybeans out and you west of the winter? It goes hungry. How many of us would put duct tape around your kids and not feed them for 4 to 5 months? Do you know how much sun we capture in the United States? about 130 days, for 130 days. We're not capturing much sun and turning that energy into feeding the soils. Wolfgang's going to show you liquid sun. You ready?
All right.
Okay, I want you to get that chunk of soil, and I want you to get it, and I want you to try to wash all the soil off the roots.
Okay.
And I want you to shake it vigorously. Pretend you're washing your underwear and cleaning it all out. Okay, ready?
Okay.
It's set. Oh no. Do it with vigor, Wolfgang. Use it. Do it like this with your. Do it like this. Do it with your name like
Break it
this.
apart?
Oh, go like that.
Take it apart.
Yeah, give it. Ah. Come on. Yeah, we don't hear the ah. Ah. Oh, there we go. Whoa. Now we're ready. Stop. Okay. Now, you see that white foam?
Yep.
Those are acids, sugars, liquid sun, glues from the plant. Pass it around. I want you to see liquid sun. Hold it, pass it, John. I want everybody to see it. So why do I want more liquid sun? Right here. Hold that, Wolfgang. Look at this underwear. They're cotton, and we bury them in the soil. Only for 3 months, or how long do we bury them, Stephanie?
I think it's 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Brand new undies. This is conventional tillage. 4 years of cover crops and no-till. This is the first year no-till and covers. I want your soil so healthy, if you go out there and you trip, your wife can't find you. What happened to him? I don't know. He disappeared. He never came back. Earthworms took him first, and then he decomposed. Do you know why I want that? I don't have to buy fertilizer. Guess who brings the zinc and the phosphorus and the minerals out of the rock? The soil does that when it's breaking down that carbon and using the acids. Then my bill goes down. We all have a bunch of phosphorus and potassium in the ground, thousands of pounds per acre. It's not soluble. And the only way I can change the undies, so next time you see those undies, man, if I don't use covers, man, I am pooping on my pants. Literally, money. We are writing big checks to everybody else. Do you know how much when we do a TDN, total dissolved nutrient test, there could be 2,000 pounds of phosphorus for every acre of the first 6 inches. And we're putting phosphorus. And we're buying potassium. You know what I want? A $30 cover crop. They make them available. They suck it out of that. And they make my aggregates. And they help me suppress weeds. And they will fix the climate. If all of Minnesota and the country covered, we wouldn't be talking about global warming. Instead, we're dealing with global ignorance and disconnectedness. That's why we fix our soils, guys. We fix our health. This is why we're nutrient deficient. We're not getting enough of the nutrients out of the rock. And then we're supplementing. We shouldn't have to be. Look at that, how it quickly broke down. Covers. Covers do that. Corn and soybean is not enough. If you go to corn, soybean, and wheat, all of a sudden your inputs drop by 25%. Douglas, where's Douglas at? Have you not heard the same thing about putting wheat into the rotation?
Yep.
Made a major change for you, did it not?
We have not got wheat in rotation right now, but when we took it out, we could tell the difference.
He could tell the difference when he got rid of wheat. The research has been there. If you go to wheat, it drops your inputs by 25%. It's documented in the agronomic literature. Just going to wheat. But for me, that's not enough. I'm not leaving my ground bare at the end. Leave you with the last statement. Russell Hidrick. He was the corn champion in North Carolina. He's 40 years old. That young man, this is how intentional he is about covers. He won the yield contest in North Carolina, 454 bushels with 40% less nitrogen. When Russell did that, I said, Russell, please don't do that. We're good friends. We've been doing this for years. Because I lived in North Carolina, I said, Russell, please don't do it because farmers already have a hang up with yield. They think yield is equivalent to return on investment. He goes, and so he did. He wanted to prove a point, and I'm so glad because I ate crow and put salt on it. Do you know what Russell proved? A kid that never grew up farming, never went to ag school. He's the best farmer scientist I've ever seen. He does test plots all the time. In fact, when he won the award, they did not want to give it to him. NC State had to go verify 4 times because they could not believe that Piedmont soils have never been recorded that 454 bushel corn has ever grown in North Carolina. Their soils are not your soils. Highly weathered. 454 bushel with a non-GMO corn and 40% less fertilizer. So you know what Russell proved? No-till yields. How many have heard no-till? No yield. Covers work. And the third thing he proved, the Haney test, which I'm going to talk about this afternoon, works. It works. So that young man who's never farmed won the yield contest of North Carolina. Let me show you the last word, last sentence, we'll take a break. How intentional you have to be with covers. True story from Russell. It was December. December is even too late for North Carolina for covers. It's just too late. You know what that young man did? Got a bunch of high school kids, and they went to a local hardware store, and they seeded 20 acres by hand with those little seed spreaders. If you're not going to be that intentional with covers, please don't do them. He's intentional. He does not hesitate with his covers. He gets $30 a bushel for corn. He grows bourbon. He makes bourbon. And his average yield, the average yields in Hickory, in that area, is 100 bushel corn. His are 250 with 50 units of N. Why? Covers. No-till. Haney. He's a great scientist. He does plots all the time. And we'll talk about that later. So I'll leave you with this last message before we go drink some water and take a break. Guys, please do not do covers if you're not intentional. Don't do it. Because you know what you're going to do? You're going to half-heartedly go do it. Didn't work. It failed. And then you're going to blame the covers. And then you prevent others from coming into soil health heaven, where you don't have to be dependent on inputs and give them freedom. Please, don't do it. I'd rather you not. Continue to be addicted to the chemicals and the fertilizer and everybody dictating to you, including the government.